that one day that beautiful karma would find its way back to you. Now, beautiful karma is a reference to Maul. Maul is the one that would say my karma is beautiful. So that is not a reach. You can very much easily tell Julian is talking about Maul. Also, Julian says you've orchestrated in the shadows, making sure that facade doesn't seep into the public. You've worked twice as hard to make up for others' lack of work ethic. Now, Maul is known to not work so hard for the pod, and he's someone that even Rory has said on a previous episode that Maul arrives late to the show, which demonstrates a lack of work ethic. It's also something...
Let's just correct that though. It's one thing to be at a job or a job site where it's manual labor, you're moving around, you gotta lift things up, you're picking something up, you're lifting, you're driving forklift, pardon me, you're doing something where you can visually see, oh, this person doesn't really put in work. It's different what they do. We can't really throw that on him. We can't put that on Maul. The man's job is to speak, bring his opinion on things that 20%, I'm being more than generous, because he'd probably say 60% of things most of us don't care about, or he doesn't care about. The fans might, and even some fans would say they're here for his opinions, his personality, his persona, Damaris as well as Rory, but maybe they don't necessarily care about the topics all the time. That's just life. That being said, can we really call him lazy? Whose word are we taking? Budden's? Budden's problem with Maul was easy to say lazy, but Budden's problem with Maul was why can Maul show up to work, be as liked as me, if not more, be respected as me, if not more, but not have to do more, but can say less? And at the end of the day, that's not really, you can't chalk that up to lazy just because it fits your narrative. He wasn't necessarily lazy. As a matter of fact, he showed up to work. I can't recall him missing many episodes of the show when he signed on, I guess officially, unofficially. That's not lazy. Just because someone works in a way that you'd prefer them not to work, because they seem to not get yelled at or screamed at or called out for, doesn't mean you can throw a label on it and say you're lazy. So he's not lazy. From what we've seen, late to work, if Rory called him out, who am I to combat that? Is it an everyday thing? Is it not? None of my business. Neither here nor there when it comes to me and my table. Is that important as a man? Do I take that serious? You should. You should. I can understand someone saying, I can't take this guy serious. He can't even be a man and show up to work. I can understand that perspective. But I can also understand someone saying, man, I slack off in this area. I need to work in this area. I admit my flaws in this area. And when I show up late, I can't apologize because I'm wrong in this area. But when I come to work, I come to work. When I get there, I might be late, but I'm coming to work. That doesn't excuse it, by the way. It's not like, hey, shine over here so you can drop the ball over here. I'm just saying. He's not lazy. He worked. Like it or not.
Joe said about Maul when he was on the Joe Budden podcast. And then Julian says, you placate the middleman for those two divided to speak to each other. I don't know who the middleman might be. Could it be him? Who knows? You go to work, smile, continue to make up for everyone's shortcomings, abandoning your own, but you must be a team player. But a team implies no individual is greater than the whole. I think he's talking about Maul here because that's also something Joe said about Maul and Rory. You know, these guys, position themselves as team players, but they don't act like team players. You know, they seek preferential treatment and so on and so forth. Also, Julian says, you find solace in some of the supporting cast. One of them quits. Damn, then another one. There's a pattern here. Now, I don't know who he's talking about. Could he be talking about Yomi? Yomi was a figure of the pod. I believe she was a producer. So she appears not to be on the show anymore. There's some that say she's on the show. But all I know is that they don't talk about her, and I don't see her in any images. And then Julian says, you have to make the change that's long overdue. The bond you developed started in disappointment and grew to be genuine. Further on, he says, I was deeply committed to my role, both off camera and in front of the lens, and I had reached a point this year where no response was a response. Without getting into the weeds any more than I want to disclose, my next project is what I'm most excited about. Julian says also that he was fired. The signs were there, subtle and razor sharp along the way. He's grateful for his 3 years. Now, I didn't play the clip from his podcast because I felt like me talking about it would be more pointed. But just to highlight, what Julian did here is he put a lot of what he wanted to do on the back burner for Rory and Maul. Like, he, I guess, marginalized his voice. And also, he was trying to act like a team player, but felt like someone on the show wasn't doing the same and was acting like they were above everyone. Now, it's presumably Maul, but maybe it could be Rory, though I doubt it, because Rory did say that him and Julian are cool, but Maul unfollowed Julian. Also, Julian is kind of saying he feels he did a lot of the behind the camera stuff and in front of it to make the pod money, and he wasn't, given that money back or shown proper equity in whatever they did. I guess maybe he helped get ads or helped develop segments for the...
And he probably did. He probably did put a lot of work in. A lot of work that's probably going to be swept under the rug and go unnoticed. And now he has to put a lot of that hustle and work into his own podcast. And many blessings may come his way as well. I think one thing we tend to forget, and it's so... Sometimes, because I'm new at this maybe, but I find myself talking about common sense. And then I guess they do say common sense is not all that common these days, but I legit think we forget, bro. We are talking about humans. You see these people, you watch them, you hear their personality, you grow to feel you know them, but they're still people at the end of the day. Whether you feel like they're a figure to you or I don't know what you want to chalk it up to, but these are still people. These are still people that when you're in a room and you're not there and I'm not there, and something is said like a joke, and then some sly comment is made and some hate, or when a comment is made and it turns to an argument, all of a sudden some things are said that seem they've been stirring for some time, and you just let me have it all at once. You gotta remember, we're still human. People are still human. It's like when someone, God forbid, but it happens, passes away. In the city that I'm from is very small, so we know most people, and most people know each other. So it tends to be a little different. But even when it does happen where I don't know the person at all, like not the face, not the name, but the point is, not all the time is it, it's always going to be a value for life in my mind that goes, dang, bro, another one. Or in my heart that feels that. But at the same time, you don't know the hell they were causing out here. You don't know who that person was. You don't know what you call karma, what I just call you reap what you sow. You don't know what they were sowing, and you don't know why they reaped or didn't reap. So it's not all the time a case of the unknown or mistaken identity or why him or why her. Sometimes it's, well, if you knew them close enough, you would know exactly why that person. I hate to go so dramatic for something so petty, because this is a job. Again, I know y'all put them on a pedestal, and maybe you don't. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe you're fishing for content, and maybe salute to you that you're doing a good job, because it was enough for me to click. But in your fishing for content, I'm taking it as like y'all are like surprised or thrown off or curious at what happened. These are still people that we don't see the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And again, I know that's the part where someone would go, of course, legend, that's common sense. But if it is, then what are we talking about? All we can do is see this, and if you rock with the bull, go support his new page, his podcast. And if you rock with the bulls from the beginning, continue to support them as well. But we have no say. There's nothing to talk about because we don't see behind the scenes. We don't know how nasty some things have gotten, what's been said, what's been done that can't be undone, what's been said that can't be forgiven. We don't see all of that. The behind the scenes is still real life. The same way you would absolutely cut someone off for something that you're like, man, I've been peeping, bro. It's not one thing. It's not three things. It's this dude. He got some jealousy or some envy. No, I'm not talking about this man. I don't know this man. I don't know nothing about that. Nothing. I'm just saying we don't know every bit of it behind the scenes. For someone to unfollow you that you were previously working for, I mean, as far as if you ask me, he's kept it clean and class act, like a class act. Well, I haven't heard nothing nasty come from Maul about him, and that's how it should be. We don't need to know what happened. They know, and they acted accordingly, and this is where they're at. This is the road they've come to cross. It is what it is. It is what it is. Not everybody's as innocent as they seem, and if the bros be wrong in that area, then that's their wrong that they got it right one day, if the opportunity is there. But most of the time, everything will come to the light, and if it doesn't for the fans, it doesn't mean it didn't come to the light for them. So they are where they are. More blessings and power to them.
And he said 2 people resigned. Like I said, that might have been Yomi earlier. Well, I mean, this is interesting. I would argue, why didn't Julian just talk about it more directly? I think he wants to make sure his podcast is more of a success, but instead he went the circuitous route of not really bringing things up and going towards, I guess the high road, but also taking the low road. My thing is, you might as well take the whole low road sometimes, because now you have a platform in which you can monetize directly off of it, but instead you took the middle ground and it wasn't as entertaining as it could have been. Your audience was tuning in for you for a moment. And that's one thing I think Joe used to do well, is whenever his audience was looking for him to speak on a subject, he delivered. He didn't do anything different, than deliver. He didn't try to do subliminals. He went straight to it. And now that Julian finds himself as the lead of his own podcast, he's going to have to seize the moment. He's going to have to navigate away from what Rory and Maul do, which is to take half measures. Right now, it's a time for full measures. You either do it or you don't, and you step off. But let me know what you think in the comments. I listen to...
It's like if someone doesn't do things the way y'all think it should be done, so that y'all can be fed information that we're really not supposed to necessarily be privy to, then they half-step or they did it wrong. It's like the J. Cole situation. It's like the same people who are sitting there saying he's washed, don't put himself in the GOAT conversation, I never want to hear about this again. Bro, the man crossed the boundary in a line that he sets for himself. A personal moral, a personal boundary. These are the same people you can scroll through their Instagram or TikTok and you'll see something like, don't ask them something about me. Ask them about themselves. Ask them what they did to me. These are the same people that hit you with quotes all day. Karma is real. You will get what you reap. You will get what you sow. Life goes a full circle. Things come back around. These are the same people that got 131 quotes for you. 103 quotes for you, but they take none of their own advice. Bro, this man crossed the line that he felt like he crossed personally. Not for us to judge or have any opinion on. How do we not salute that? How do we not say, man, that takes a real man. Man crossed the line, realized he crossed the line, checked himself, and reeled it back in. How do you not salute that? How do you not say, you have to know yourself enough to know where you're willing to take it, and you have to know yourself enough to be willing to pull it back in when you've gone too far, and humble enough to say, I was wrong. That should have been like one of the most saluted moments. I'm not saying, bro, I'm first in line when it comes to who was trying to see a couple people go at it. Peacemakers, of course, but I'm trying to see a rap battle, of course. Get the best of the bars. I love to see an artist that I've been saluting from the ground up get battle tested. I love to see it, cause when he strengthens, when he prevails, he gives me that much more status on his card. When you play his card, yeah, this is my favorite rapper. Yeah, and he's battle tested. Yeah, he's done that. Yeah, he got classics. He's did that. Yeah, he can rap with the best of them and still hold his own. He's done that. Will we have enjoyed a battle? Absolutely. But you just gotta salute. Let people move how they move and respect it. Just because you don't gain nothing out of it, the fans, oh, now you guys don't know what happened behind the scenes. You would have loved for him to go out, to jump out the window, cross the line. He's keeping it classy too, as opposed to bad mouthing them. Stuff like that, if anything, should make you think. Maybe he sees where he's wrong too, so he don't got much to say. There's not much to say when you know you crossed the line in certain areas. You maybe both parties were wrong, and that's it. Go your separate ways and learn from that and do better and make a new podcast. Invite friends that you consider close and you can trust. Pardon me. And don't let these things happen again. Learn from your mistakes, but don't go running around. You bringing up Joe Budden. Joe Budden, oh, he would say this and he would have done this. He would have done that. Yeah, he would have. He definitely would have. And it would have got views. He's good at that, okay? But let that man be him. Let Julian be Julian. Let Joe be Joe. Not everybody's going out the window for some clicks and some views just to probably double back in a year from now. Like, oh, I shouldn't have did that. Man, it's a sad place to be in when you can't control your emotions in your mouth long enough that you got to constantly be apologizing every other week to different people. Leave them parties be, and you be, and let's go about business, and let's get back to what we all got in this for, the bag, respectfully. Yeah, keep it over there, I'll keep it over here. We got nothing to say. I know where I was wrong, you know where you were wrong. If you can't see where you were wrong, that's cool. I know where you were wrong, and I learned from your mistakes, I'll learn from my mistakes. We don't have to go back and forth. We don't have to have a nasty back and forth. For what? For y'all to be entertained? For y'all to go, oh, that's what happened. Now we got more content. So y'all didn't get what y'all wanted. Now y'all making content about not getting content.
Podcast on audio for Julian, and then I watched it in video, and I must say it was a bit easier to watch it in video because you get to see the imagery. In audio, his voice didn't play as well. I think when you're used to listening to Julian with co-hosts, it's odd. It's quite jarring to listen to him
It's different.
just solo for a long period of time, and that's what that podcast was. As to if Rory and Maul will respond, I guess not. I think they're trying to put this behind them and act like Julian wasn't a part of the show. But Julian did expose some things. Julian did kind of get at their foundation of their show. Like, oh, what's really going on at the Rory and Maul media company? Who's really putting in the work? Is there a culture of transparency? Or are people just showing up, taking advantage of each other? Rory and Maul are the ones that are taking all the credit while the people on the editing table, the producer table, labor away and deal with personalities that maybe aren't the most pleasant to work with. Like, I'm starting to think Maul isn't the easiest guy to collaborate with. While he may seem like a nice dude, I would think as far as productivity, he hampers it. All I gotta do is look back at that time when he refused to do an interview on another platform because he didn't want to ask someone if he could be on their show. I would be frustrated with that. And it lends to what Julian said in that subliminal diss of Maul. Alright, y'all. Follow me on Instagram to Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter to Stop TV. Subscribe to my Patreon. I just did a Twitter space with Julian where he talked about his show and whatnot. And it was an enlightening discussion about how to launch your own pod. So I think anybody who's a creator or is looking to be a creator might want to tap in to just kind of see the journey it takes to develop your own platform. All right, y'all. This is Danny from The Stop.
Lastly, just to wrap it up, because you wrapped it up, I'll wrap it up. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. We're talking about who did more work, who might have not. First of all, that's a irrelevant conversation because we know nothing. It's not even like we've been given little bits of information or like why they were still respecting each other and cool. He was making comments all the time like, yeah, I'm working myself to death. Like, at least when the Rory, Joe, and Maul were all together in parks, we heard comments throughout seasons and episodes where it was like, see that account, and it was like there was rumblings of what little by little things going on where if you were paying attention you could grab and say, yo, something cooking here. But bro, I don't know how much of the show you watch since you I found you because of the Budden podcast, but watching Joe Budden's and his podcast, Rory would come very well equipped. I mean, if you want to talk about coming with a docket and bringing topics, Rory puts, in my opinion, in my eyes, from what I seen, he put work in like he wanted to see how much can we get this to the next level. I really believe he believed in what they was doing, which is why I think it struck a chord enough to make him say, okay, bet, I'm going over here and I'm going to build my own. Bro, God will use a negative for someone's good. Maybe it is what it is. Rory and Maul went their separate ways. They built their own. You can compare numbers, and I'll leave you out to the numbers game. But they went and they got their own. And we don't know how much happier they are. We don't know how much peace of mind, how much less hate is involved, how much disrespect is involved, how much this, how much that. You don't know, bro. Everything could have worked out perfectly. Julian is on his own podcast. Maybe you don't know his energy when he was at that show every day. You don't know how he was feeling. You don't know if he was happy. You don't know if it was working best for him and his favor, for him and his relationships outside. You don't know who's hurting in his family right now or team that in a couple months or weeks, he might just come and say, yo, come work with me. And now they got the next big podcast bubbling. And it all worked out. And he'd have never took those steps if it wasn't for this predicament. Everything can work out for everybody's best. That's your job. As a man, take what you're going through, as many L's as you're handed, and try to find the dub in it. And if you can't find a W in it, then find a lesson in it. And that's your W. And it is what it is. But we're going to mention people putting in more work in certain areas. Okay. All that work Rory was doing prepared him for his next step when it was him and Maul. All that work Julian's been doing prepared him where he can be comfortable enough to say, bet, I'll run a podcast by myself. That ain't easy.